Chapter 1. The Calm Before the Storm. In a small, quaint village nestled between towering mountains and a serene river, there lived a young woman named Alara. Her life was simple, marked by routine and the comfort of familiarity. Each morning, she would rise with the sun, the golden rays filtering through the wooden shutters of her modest home. The village was her world, filled with the laughter of children, the chatter of elders, and the occasional melody from the local musicians. Alara was content, yet there was a restlessness deep within her. She often found herself staring at the distant mountains, wondering what lay beyond them. The villagers spoke of other lands, of bustling cities and vast oceans. But Alara had never ventured beyond the safety of her village. The fear of the unknown kept her rooted, but the winds whispered of change. Chapter 2. The First Gusts. One fateful autumn evening, as the leaves began to fall and the air grew crisp, a stranger arrived in the village. His name was Kale, a traveler with stories of distant lands and adventures that captivated the villagers. He spoke of cities where the buildings touched the sky, of deserts where the sun scorched the earth, and of seas that stretched endlessly. Alara was drawn to Kale's stories like a moth to a flame. His tales ignited a spark within her, awakening a desire she had long suppressed. She began to dream of the world beyond the mountains, of the adventures that awaited her. The winds of change were beginning to stir. Chapter 3. The Storm Approaches. As winter approached, so did a growing sense of unease in the village. The once gentle winds turned fierce, howling through the night as if urging the villagers to prepare for something unprecedented. The skies darkened, and a heavy sense of anticipation hung in the air. Kale, who had stayed in the village longer than he had intended, noticed the change in Alara. He saw the fire in her eyes, the yearning for something more. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Kale spoke to her. "Alara, the winds are calling you. They speak of change, of a journey that only you can undertake. The world is vast, and there is much to discover. But you must have the courage to leave behind the familiar and embrace the unknown." His words resonated deeply with Alara. The fear that had once held her back was now being overtaken by a powerful desire to explore, to learn, and to grow. She knew that her time in the village was coming to an end. Chapter 4. The Journey Begins. With the arrival of spring, Alara made her decision. She packed her belongings, said her goodbyes, and set out on a journey that would change her life forever. The villagers watched her go with a mix of pride and sadness, knowing that she might never return. As she ventured beyond the mountains, Alara encountered challenges she had never imagined. The path was treacherous, and the winds seemed to test her resolve at every turn. But with each obstacle, she grew stronger, more determined. Kale, who had become her mentor, guided her through the trials. He taught her how to navigate the unfamiliar terrain, how to listen to the winds, and how to trust in her own instincts. Together, they crossed deserts, scaled mountains, and sailed across seas. Chapter 5. The Eye of the Storm. Their journey brought them to a great city, unlike anything Alara had ever seen. The city was a place of contrasts, where wealth and poverty coexisted, where beauty and decay were intertwined. It was here that Alara faced her greatest challenge. The city was in turmoil, torn apart by conflict and corruption. The winds of change were blowing fiercely, and Alara found herself caught in the middle. She realized that her journey was not just about discovering the world, but also about finding her purpose. Alara decided to stay in the city and help those in need. She used the skills she had learned along the way to make a difference. She organized the people, led them in peaceful protests, and worked to bring about change. The winds that had once called her away from her village were now driving her to fight for justice. Chapter 6. The Winds of Change. Years passed, and the city began to transform. The winds of change had swept through, bringing with them a new era of hope and renewal. Alara, once a simple village girl, had become a leader, a symbol of resilience and courage. But the winds were not done with her yet. They whispered of new adventures, of lands yet to be explored, and challenges yet to be faced. Alara knew that her journey was far from over. As she stood on the balcony of her city home, feeling the familiar winds on her face, Alara smiled. She had embraced the winds of change, and they had carried her to places she had never dreamed of. And as long as the winds blew, she would continue to follow them, wherever they might lead. Epilogue: The Legacy of Alara. Alara's story became legend, inspiring others to seek out their own paths, to embrace change, and to face the unknown with courage. The village she had left behind thrived, its people empowered by her example. The city she had saved flourished, a testament to the power of resilience and the winds of change. And as for Alara, she continued her journey, knowing that the winds would always guide her, no matter where they took her.